I just wrote this. I haven't read it yet. This is my first time reading it through. I am welcome here by the owner of the bookstore. Repeatedly, he's invited me to write poems outside his store for passers-by. Name your topic, name your price. I'll write you a poem about anything you like. There's another poet, a man who sets up here, but there's plenty of room, and I'm welcome with my typewriter, chair, little table, and hand-painted sign. Repeatedly, the owner has invited me. Bookstores and poets go together like peanut butter and jelly. On Wednesday, I set up at the bookstore with my boyfriend, who is also a poet, with a little table, quill pen, and sign. The other poet who sets up here is thin and white, with tight, bright pants and gray hair tied on top of his head in a man bun. His sign says, "Poet for hire." He writes on a vintage typewriter. On Wednesday, the man bun poet is mean, says it's shitty. My boyfriend and I are there. On Thursday, I sit up next to my boyfriend, and Man Bun comes and sits next to me. He says nothing, ignores me, silent treatment. Okay, fine. Then he hands me a poem he's written. It's called Pretty. The first lines are, "Another bitch with a pretty smile. This corner's seen plenty like you." A little while later, I move my chair. Man Bun kicks it. Across the street, it hits a car. I scream at him. It's not okay, I say, to treat people this way, not just me, but anybody. If I see you do it, I'm going to say something. I feel like if I don't say something, people will see what he's done to me and assume she's fine with that. It must be okay. They're sitting next to each other. They must be friends. He's a man, she's a woman. Maybe it's a lover's quarrel. Better not to get involved. So I scream and scream. So I'm heard and seen. I'm not okay with this. Being ignored, then called a bitch, ignored some more, then made to witness violence. It's not okay. Just because I've been harassed, and it would be easy to keep my mouth shut, go away, do what the meanest person says. So I scream and scream, so I'm heard and seen. People on the street watch, they see, later let me know they support me. But in the moment, it's just me. In a battle, I didn't pick. But when you're attacked, you're in it. The attacker doesn't quit. It's just me and him. No matter who else is around, it's personal, political, sexual. I'm an awkward poet girl. I'm weird and marginal. The owner invites me into the bookstore with Man Bun and we talk. Another woman, the owner's friend, joins in, reads the poem, says she feels attacked as a woman. Man Bun says he's a feminist. He does yoga. He has a girlfriend whose husband does something impressive. I forget what. This is Man Bun's social proof. He knows people. He does things. He can say I'm a bitch. He talks about the way I'm dressed. It's summertime. It's hot. I finally worked up the courage to wear a belly shirt. It cools me off a lot. He talks about my belly shirt. He uses my beauty against me. He says she's using sex to sell poetry. She's just being pretty. She's one of the better poets out there, he says, but she's using her looks. He says she knows exactly what she's doing. This is my embodiment. I am a woman. My parents loved each other, had a baby. Their love grew up to look like me. I'm weird. I'm awkward. I love to write poetry. I've been writing poetry since I was a little kid. Poetry has gone everywhere with me. Now I write poetry on the street, and poetry lets me travel, make my own schedule. I'm living the dream, and I'm welcome here by the owner of the bookstore. Repeatedly, he's invited me. Bookstores and poets go together like peanut butter and jelly. Man Bun tells me there's a community of poets I don't know about their conversations. I'm not included. He tells me he wants to tell me as little as possible, that it's okay to keep some people out. On Friday, I'm sitting at my typewriter in front of the bookstore. My glasses are off because I'm sewing a hem on a belly shirt. It's 90 degrees, New Orleans in July, and I work outside. The Man Bun poet shows up. His first words to me are, Your shirt is shorter. You're showing more midriff than yesterday, and you're not wearing glasses. Tell me how it's not all about sex. You know how to play the game. Well, so do I. He sits next to me. I write a poem for someone. He tells them, don't get a poem from her. She's a bitch. They walk away without paying. That's all it takes. Don't get a poem from her. She's a bitch. She's a bitch. He tells people all night. They walk up to me and he says, she's a bitch. Don't get a poem from her. Get a better poem from me. Eventually, when he speaks to people who are talking to me, I say, that man is not my friend. I know it looks like he is, because he's sitting next to me and we're both writing poetry, but looks can be deceiving. That's how it is on the street. Stand close to someone, other people assume you must be friends. Stand close to someone, yell at them, other people assume she must be fine with this. He's a man, she's a woman, they're sitting next to each other. Might as well say they're sitting together. She must be okay with this, probably a lover's quarrel, best not to get involved. That man is not my friend, I say, in response to him sabotaging me. I've never said that about anyone before, that someone is not my friend. I've never taken that stand. I'm learning so much about respect, what it means to honor myself, because I'm welcome here. Repeatedly, the bookstore owner has asked me to sit outside and write poetry, because bookstores and poets go together like peanut butter and jelly. That man is not my friend, I tell someone, and they ask, is he your enemy? Yes, the man bun poet says, I am your enemy. At the end of the night, after the man bun poet leaves, a man sits down next to me, tells me, you have two options. Someone has paid me good money to do something and I can do it, or you can listen to my story. I'm leaving town tomorrow, either way. I'm freaked out, but I calm down. I say, this is part of what I do. As a poet, I write poems. I'm also here to listen. After I listen to his story, he thanks me and walks away. On Saturday, I show up again. I'm welcome here. I'm invited. The owner wants me outside writing poetry, because bookstores and poets go together like peanut butter and jelly. And this is Frenchman Street. This is New Orleans. And I show up to write poetry. Name your topic, name your price. I'll write you a poem about anything you'd like. It's not always hard. It's not always easy, but it's what I do, and I keep doing it, writing poetry for the public. No, I'm not always perfect. I'm weird, I'm awkward, but I show up, ready to write poems, to make my heart available, to communicate with words. Some people have told me I'm selling my soul. People can say what they want. I'm just here to write poems. The man bun poet is set up beside the bookstore door. My boyfriend and I sit on the street by the curb. There's been a light rain. It's summertime. It's nice. The rain stops. The man bun poet takes his table and sets it up in front of mine. My boyfriend stands beside the man bun poet's table. Man bun shoves my boyfriend in front of me. I record it. I scream, stop. Man bun shoves him again. I'm panicking. Call the police. I say, someone do something. Stress hormones flowing through my body since Wednesday. Man bun harasses me. I can't think clearly. But physically, when he sits down, he is near enough to me I could reach out and touch the back of his head if I wasn't terrified. I don't know what to do. He sits there like it's normal to shove someone to get what you want. And all night long he tells people what pieces of shit we are for being there, while I wait 3 hours for the cops to show up, and the people in the street seem disappointed in me. Why did you call the police? You should never call the police. Unless it's a matter of life or death, is the message I sense underneath their looks of disappointment. But I'm not okay with this. I'm not going to kick his ass, and I'm not going away just because I'm being harassed. I'm welcome here. The bookstore owner invited me because poets and bookstores go together like sausages and eggs. Yes, I'm a woman. I have tits, ass, belly, legs, hands, fingers, face. Every day I learn more about how to use my voice. I make mistakes. I keep coming back. This is my life and my experience. I write poems from all of this and more, and I could talk and never stop. I share a lot of myself. It's not always easy, it's not always hard, but I show up because that's the first step to what life is all about, showing up. That's all I did. Live and let live. I showed up. I took my hits, like I do every day. But since Wednesday, life's been hitting harder than usual as the man bun poet attacks my character, my femininity, my interactions with others, my property, and now my boyfriend. It is violent to make someone a witness to violence. Finally, I set up to write again. It takes a while, but I calm down. People approach me. I write one poem, then another, and I feel something, an energy on me. I look up, and the man bun poet sits at his table and stares at me. The police show up. My boyfriend chooses not to press charges, so the police cite all of us for disturbing the peace. We're told to leave. The bookstore owner tells me, I want you back here again. So on Sunday I show up at the bookstore to write poetry. The man bun poet doesn't show up. My boyfriend and I sit outside the bookstore and write poems all day and night. It's nice. This is why we come here, to write poems. At the end of the day, we drive my truck home. My truck was parked right in front of the bookstore. I could see it from where I sat with my typewriter. 2 miles down the road, my tire starts going flat. I feel a building, terrorized panic. We drive home on the rim. On Monday, we don't go to the bookstore to write poetry. My boyfriend changes my tire. There are 2 index finger long slices, a hand's breadth apart, on the tire's sidewall, angled from the rim to the tread, like the outer lines of a W. On a busy street where anyone could see, someone slashed my tire in such a way that it didn't deflate until I was 2 miles down the road, 2 miles closer to home. Yes, I'm afraid. I feel unseen and unheard, vulnerable and victimized, susceptible to crime. Why? Because I'm marginalized. I'm awkward and I'm weird. I don't always say hi. I'm kind of in my own world sometimes. But I know it's not okay to harass someone ceaselessly, to use threats and violence and sabotage, to abuse someone until they roll over and say they've had enough, so that others will look at me and say she's fine with this. I don't know what's going on. Best not to get involved. She laid down. She shut up. I guess I can forget about it. So I show up and speak up. It's not okay to harass mentally, emotionally, sexually, to victimize, to traumatize, to abuse, to do violence to property or person, to cause harm psychologically, emotionally, to sexualize, to threaten, to intimidate. I will not roll over. I will not be quiet. I show up, I speak up to live in a place I am welcome,